Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again to another episode of Cig the Big. My name's Cole Blenner. We'll be hanging out here today. Joining me, of course, is going to be the other half of this program here, Siglin Wheeler. How you doing?
Doing great today. Just here to talk some sports, doing what we usually do. Always a pleasure to be here chatting it up with one of my good friends.
Yeah, that's right, man. I always appreciate, coming by here, chopping it up, talking sports, just kind of bullshitting about it here. Of course, we kind of started this all on, my first podcast, Beers and Bullshit. And so I love talking about it. And one thing that I started kind of incorporating there is these mini episodes. I don't think we'll title it any differently like I do there. But, we just kind of wanted to get in the studio here. If we come up with a topic, in the beginning of it, literally this one came to me off of a meme that I sent you.
Yeah. That's literally how we got this idea.
Yeah, I texted him at like fucking 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, don't know if you're up yet, but this is funny, but this is also an idea. So if you actually want to segue into that, tell us what we're going to be talking about here today.
So what the meme was, it was a photo of Saturn, and it showed a couple NFL teams.
12 to be exact.
12 NFL teams, and it said, what does this planet has something that these teams don't? And obviously Saturn has rings, and looks like there's only 11 on here.
Oh, really? Did some team join? I had an article pulled up here, but maybe someone won a Super Bowl. Probably Philly. I bet you this article probably has Philly in there, and Philly now has a ring, obviously, after, dethroning Tom Brady 3 years ago now.
Yeah. So anyway, it shows 11 teams that don't have rings and a picture of Saturn. So we're just going to kind of cover these teams, talk about if we think that there's a chance in the near future that they could potentially get off of this list, or if they're doomed and are going to stay on this list for a while.
Yeah, so let's just call this one the bridesmaid episode, because these have never gotten a ring. So let's kick it off. Number one here, I'm going to start with, let's go with the Arizona Cardinals, because if we're going to talk about, I think, also teams who can win a Super Bowl here, probably within the next 5 years, that's got to be at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That is probably my number 2 on the list, who is most likely to get off.
So we'll talk about your number one in a second, but just to kind of bring up some history here, the Cardinals obviously they've been in the NFL for a while. Coming from the St. Louis Cardinals, which were actually a football team before they moved out to Phoenix to become the Phoenix Cardinals and eventually then just the Arizona Cardinals. But the Cardinals have been in the league for a while. They actually started out in Chicago. A couple of early championships, I believe, in the 20s and 30s. So they do have NFL titles under their, belt there. But we're talking about rings as in like Super Bowl rings here. And the Cardinals,
they had the affiliation merger.
Exactly.
To make a Super Bowl.
Yeah. So we're talking like 67 all the way up into my phone ringing there. We're talking 67 through modern day, or the NFL-AFL merger is in 1970, but they started the Super Bowl 3 years before that. But the Cardinals have only actually ever made one Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that was a battle. That was a great Super Bowl to watch. I actually thought that they were going to take it for a while until a few plays happened.
So I think two of the plays that really impacted that game is going to be James Harrison with that interception return right at the end of the first half, that off that errant Kurt Warner throw, and then obviously the end of the game you're talking about on the tiptoes, on the fingertips.
Antonio Holmes,
arguably one of the greatest Super Bowl catches of all time.
Might even be one of the greatest catches of all time.
Oh, period. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're talking, tip of the toes, tip of the fingers.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to do a greatest Super Bowl catches breakdown for another episode sometime, but
because you have a lot of really good ones.
David Tyree will have to always be number one in my opinion.
Oh, that was just a stupid catch. That does not happen again if you retry it.
No,
doesn't matter how good any receiver is. Like, that was just the helmet catch is unique in its own right.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, but obviously, could have happened. I could have gotten Kurt Warner a second ring there. Larry Fitzgerald here, I think you're kind of leading into modern day as one of the legends I'd love to see get a ring. And the team is stacked this year. You have J.J. Watt, A.J. Green coming in. Kyler Murray starting to look like a real weapon. I mean, in his rookie year, he was good. His second year, you kind of saw him take that leap. But in year 3, it's like, watch out, because he's going to be a deadly quarterback coming this year, especially with a certain quarterback who is on the Houston Texans currently may not be playing all 17 games this year. So we will see. Maybe Kyler kind of takes over that most dynamic, spot, like, up there with player not to be named and Lamar Jackson.
I mean, we saw a leap last year. So
leap.
I'm expecting an even bigger jump to this season.
Well, you're talking about the veteran experience you have just in that receiving core. AJ Green, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, 5 years ago, that's you throw for 6,000 yards blindfolded.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Seriously, like crazy team there. So the Cardinals, yeah. So you had them number 2 on your list of teams who don't have a ring but are most likely to win it in the next couple of years. Who was your number 1 team?
The Bills.
The Bills. Okay, yeah, because they came close last year, obviously against the Chiefs.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills, hands down.
I mean,
they added a great receiver in this offseason process. They've boosted up their defense. They really didn't lose anybody, so they're probably coming back.
Oh, the Bills are
vengeance.
They're a dangerous team. I mean, they still have that end of first round pick. There's a lot of talent in this year's draft. They could add another really good piece. And that's what you feel like. They're like 1 or 2 pieces away from just being that overall team, and especially if Josh Allen makes another small leap.
Don't want to spoil this now, but I think their biggest need is they need an every down running back.
Oh, 100%. And considering the end of the first round is a great place to grab running backs, you could see someone. I mean, we're going to do a draft episode, but obviously we talk about this later on. Well, this will probably be released after the draft. So fuck it, let's just talk about it. I think someone like Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams from UNC could be another decent pick to kind of get in that offense.
We had literally the same 3.
Yep. Oh, I think the top 3 backs are those 3 in.
I think they should either get Etienne or Najee
Harris.
Nahi.
Oh.
No, it's Najee. He just did an interview about how his stuff was getting mispronounced, so I want to remember it. But yeah, Najee Harris. He is another one that's also deserving in that late first round.
I think so too. I mean, I don't know about early in the NFL. Like, obviously, unless you get like a Christian McCaffrey, running backs are kind of devalued nowadays with all the committees and with honestly the talent at running backs is just too good.
I mean, you saw last year how the rookie running backs really impacted the league. Like, you had James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Joshua Kelly was a late round running back that was really balling for the Chargers. So I mean, I think you're starting to see the value, and I think that the NFL is going to start to more balance out where we're going to see a lot more 1,000-yard rushers and less 5,000-yard passers.
Well, yeah, because coverage schemes are starting to catch up.
Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire was great last year.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a good one. James Robinson down in Jacksonville was actually the best rookie running back. I mean, he ran for like 1,400 yards.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on a later day. Jonathan Taylor started, got every carry in the game.
Well, I know you're biased being a Colts fan, but still. All right, talking about running backs, I'm going to switch to my number 3 team I would actually pick for teams next to win a ring, and that's the Tennessee Titans. Because historically, obviously, the Houston Oilers played some good football in the 80s, never made it to a Super Bowl. The 99 Titans, after the move and the name change, were 1 yard short, literally 1 yard short of being the St. Louis Rams in 1999. But that team got their loaded. I have them in the draft. And obviously this is coming out afterwards, so I'll just go ahead and spoil it now. I'm heavily looking wide receiver for this team because I think that's the piece they need, either that or tight end would be more of a second round pick, I think. But still, this team, you get another wide receiver to go alongside A.J. Brown who can really kind of open up that offense. Ryan Tannehill is a fantastic play action passer off of Derrick Henry. That is a dangerous team. They added some pass rushers this offseason in Bud Dupree, and that's the thing is they were last in the NFL last year in sacks, and they still made the playoffs. So with adding some pass rushing depth like Bud Dupree, they could probably go someone with the first round too if maybe there is a premier pass rusher there, but you never know. The Titans could be another playoff team. I know you're probably not liking hearing that as a Colts fan playing in the same division, but still, they're a team on the rise. Derrick Henry's literally a man among boys, the best running back in the NFL right now.
We kind of always split with the Titans. I do see where you're coming from with that one. And yes, they do have the talent around, but losing Corey Davis was a huge piece, so they are going to need to get a receiver in the draft. I think that is their number one need because they got rid of Adoree Jackson for no reason, so they obviously feel like they have the pieces in their secondary that isn't a need. And then didn't they also lose their tight end too?
Yeah, they lost Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, so I believe it's either tight end or receiver, their two biggest needs. And I think those are two pieces that could also affect them and allow them to downfall, which is where I go personally on who I believe makes it out of this bubble third, or in that order has the most potential to make it out. I believe it would be the Cleveland Browns.
I'd rank them fourth because I love the Browns going into this year.
See, I would rank the Titans fourth.
And see, but that's the thing, man. The Browns, they fucking things up is literally an adjective calling a Poland Cleveland Brown.
Did this offseason and how great
monstrous.
Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield were on the same page going into after week 6, which generally
I'm jaded. I'm fucking jaded, okay?
Generally, it does take about 6 weeks for a new head coach to take over and get the system implemented he wanted. You saw it with the Packers their first year with Matt LaFleur. They didn't start off to a hot start. So I believe in the second year being under Kevin Stefanski's system, they had some great crucial wins against some great teams last year. And they only added defensive secondary and defensive help. They're not messing with anything in that offense. They have 2 great running backs, one of the most solid receiving corps in the whole NFL. And then you go look at who they added the defense. They got Warner Jr. from the Colts. Walker Jr. from the Colts, my bad. They went and grabbed the 2 defensive backs who played together and have chemistry playing together from LA and put them together as a tandem to mix with their already young secondary that is going to be a thing. And we are also going to see Grant Delpit this year. So I believe that they personally have the 3rd most potential. And now after giving my argument, I want to see where you sway.
So where I sway is purely, there's no logic to this whatsoever, but Siglin.
They are the Browns.
They are the fucking Browns.
The Browns do Browns things.
Okay, they are the Browns. You want my argument? Here's the argument. They're the fucking Browns. They could finish 14-2 this year, and I still will not pick them to win the Super Bowl as much as I want them to win. Because God, if there is a fan base that has just been shit on, like it felt good when Cleveland won their NBA title. Can you imagine when the Browns eventually do win a Super Bowl?
Oh, wild. Okay, so my take now. What if they would have signed J.J. Watt?
They're still the Browns.
They're still
actually unpopular opinion. J.J. Watt is not a power signing that everybody thinks it is. It is a good signing. It is a top 25 signing, but it's not the top 5 signing of the offseason.
Let me stop you right there, though. The reason why it would be such a great signing is because, for one, either J.J. Watt isn't going to be double teamed for the rest of his career because he's got Myles Garrett on the other side, who faced the most double teams in the NFL last year.
Chandler Jones.
But what I'm saying is if he would have been on the Browns, it would have allowed that defense to open up. Because you can't double team both of them or you got 2 defensive tackles on one guy. It's not happening.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that would have made a great difference, but J.J. Watt's a good defensive piece, but I think at this point in your career, in his career, the injuries, I think he'll come back and play a full season. Honestly, I think he's rested, rejuvenated. I think he's going to play great. He could be a 10-15 sack player in Arizona, make a Pro Bowl, be an all-pro player. But still, when I look at like futuristic signings, like the Browns are a team that they have the future build for him. That would have helped now, certainly, but you never know. They have a good pick in this year's draft.
They actually think they're going to go defensive end.
Yeah. No, there's
Kwity Paye or Rosu.
Kwity Paye, Azeez Ojulari. There's a bunch of fantastic pass rushers that we're going to talk about in the next episode with the draft breakdown. But there's a lot of edge rushers. Dude, you could talk about them taking a project player like Carlos Basham Jr., let him go on the opposite side of Garrett, someone who has Myles Garrett-like athleticism, but obviously not Myles Garrett-like, playing ability. You can pick him up in the second round. Like, there's a lot of talented edge defenders in the first 3-4 rounds of this draft this year. So you can go edge at any time. And I think that's maybe where the Browns were assessing the market. And let's be honest, I think J.J. Watt picked the Cardinals because of DeAndre Hopkins in the warmer weather. The Browns are probably very much in play.
According to Kyler Murray, he picked the Arizona Cardinals because of Kyler Murray.
Well,
he supposedly texted Kyler before he was even signed.
True. So who would you rather play with there, like Baker or Kyler?
Both OU products.
True. God, Oklahoma, they went through a quarter. Like, it'll be interesting to see what Spencer Rattler does in the next couple of years because Oklahoma went on some bangers there.
They're going to have to put out like a 30 for 30 on how great OU was putting out quarterbacks for solid 4 or 5 years.
No, it's just the quarterback whisperer named Lincoln Riley. I mean, he's the one who took over for Bob Stoops. So, and they've been monstrous at the quarterback position with Baker. You have Kyler come in. God, who was the guy before that too? They had another really good quarterback.
I'm trying to think right now.
Not Bradford. Baker, that was long
Bradford
before.
Was long ago, but before Baker, it was
Let's go to the good old Google machine here. While we are Googling this episode is brought to you by Google. We're not sponsored by them or anything, but they're going to answer every single question we have. So we're going to go Oklahoma quarterbacks. Oklahoma starting quarterbacks. It's going to start me in the 50s, of course. Baker was there for 3 seasons, huh? You had Landry Jones there for a while, Sam Bradford. So maybe not like, because it seemed like Jalen Hurts. That's who I'm thinking of, because he had he had the one-stop shop in 2019. Still, he's coming up for the Eagles this year. I love Jalen Hurts. I think he'll be a good player.
I'm trying to figure out who was before Baker now, because that's going to piss me off. Because Baker didn't even start in Oklahoma.
Well, Baker did start at Oklahoma, but he had to win. He didn't start at Texas Tech because of Patty.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like his career didn't start there.
So before that was Trevor Knight. That's who Baker usurped. Because it was Trevor Knight who started the majority of games the season before.
Okay.
Yeah, but then before that they had a combo. Like 13 was kind of like a lost year for him with Blake Bell and Trevor Knight. But then they had Landry Jones for 4 seasons before that. Sam Bradford for 2 seasons before that. Yeah, and then you're talking about like the mid 2000s, early 2000s. So.
Yeah, no one I know before Sam Bradford, to be real honest.
I remember Jason White because he won the Heisman and then
Troy Aikman.
Like Jason White won the Heisman and then went 7th round because he just wasn't a good quarterback. He just played on a really good team.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah. So those are 4 teams we think that can make, win the Super Bowl ideally this year. When you're talking about.
Or in the next 5.
Yeah, the next 5 years.
I think if we were to break it off and give a 5th team out of respect to everyone on this league or on this page, I think it would have to be the Vikings.
Yeah, because Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins is a respectable quarterback. So if they continue to gel together, maybe Kirk Cousins takes another half step up. You see a little bit more Washington Cousins out of him.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't have much to break down on the Vikings.
No. Well, the Vikings, so 4 Super Bowls
overall. I
love
Justin Jefferson. I will say that first and foremost. Love my LSU receivers.
Well, because I love Justin Jefferson. Love Terrence Marshall Jr. Love Jamar Chase.
Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Dwayne Bowe.
I forget about Dwayne Bowe. Some good LSU receivers there. But yeah, the Vikings, I guess I know a little bit more about the history because I have a bunch of family from Minnesota. So the Vikings, they lost 4 in the 70s. Or I think 1 in 69 or 70.
It was like the Purple People Eaters.
Yep, Purple People Eaters. And so they lost to the Colts. I know they lost one of the Raiders. I think they lost one of the Steelers too, and then one more team. So yeah, they're 0-4 all time. They kind of share the same affliction of the Bills, but they didn't make it 4 years in a row to do that. But I mean, some great players all time: Alan Page, Fran Tarkington, Randy Moss, Dante Culpepper, Robert Smith.
Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson was a fantastic player who played there. Steve Hutchinson, Matt Burke, Bryant McKinney, Jim Kleinsasser, the fullback tight end goat, with the longest fucking last name ever. Kleinsasser is like 15 letters. Had to put in size 4 font for the back of his jersey. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, the Vikings kind of be that honorable mention of a team that could win a title in the next couple of years, but their defense took a huge step back last year. But Zimmer's a good defensive coach.
Yeah, and I mean, they added some things. Mackenzie Alexander's coming back.
Yeah, a little 1-year vacation in Cincinnati and then just comes back to the Vikings.
Yeah, I didn't like it there, coach.
So, yeah, the Vikings be interesting just because Mike Zimmer's a good, defensive coach, so you kind of think that they'll work something out. But, yeah, I guess we'll go then flip it around to the bottom because the Jaguars are on this list, and obviously they're picking number 1.
I think out of everyone on this list, I would say they're probably the 7th with the most potential, depending on how Trevor Lawrence's career goes and some allegations and if someone is going to play for this franchise or not.
Who are we talking about here?
Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson's not going to the Jaguars.
No, I was talking about the Texans. I feel like if Deshaun Watson were to repair everything or whatever and decides to play for the Texans, I feel that they would probably be 6th.
He's never playing another snap for the Texans again.
I understand that.
Whether these allegations are true or not.
I understand that, but we're saying at this point, the future is bleak. He has not been dealt yet. So I would say that they would have the 6th overall best chance out of everyone on this list. So that's why I would rank the Jags at 7.
So who's your last team? The Lions?
Lions.
But Motor City Dan Campbell, though.
The Lions.
The Lions? Oh, fuck it. I don't know.
You think Jared Goff's going to win a Super Bowl throwing to nobody?
No.
They got Hawkinson and Swift, a beat-up line, no defensive players.
Dude, he couldn't win a Super Bowl fucking throwing to a great receiving core with a legendary defense and one of the best offensive coaches of all time.
Exactly. They're literally the last on this list.
So, yeah, probably in the next 5 years, don't see it happening at all. I mean, I think they get a new quarterback next year after Goff proves not good.
If we're counting it down this way, I think second to last, Atlanta. Matt Ryan's getting old. You're going to have to find a young successor. That takes time to build some things. Some other Julio Jones is getting old as well. In a few years, Calvin Ridley will probably not be as agile as he was. So they would be next to my last on the list.
I think in the next year or two, Atlanta has a decent chance. Last year, they lost a lot of games in the fourth quarter, so I think that they could do. They have a top pick. I personally would love to go Kyle Pitts in my draft. I'm still debating that decision, but I have the Falcons at number 4. I'd love to go Kyle Pitts. So if you add a playmaking tight end, I think this is a team with new coaching that could definitely turn that corner this year. But yeah, if we're talking next 5 years, because I don't know. Matt Ryan could play into his 40s. He's never really been hurt.
No, but that defense isn't solid. It's not what it was when they made their Super Bowl run.
Oh, no, but you have time to build that up.
You do have time to build it up, but I just see where they're going. I mean, you saw it last year. They choked 14-point leads, 17-point leads, straight down the drain.
Well, I think that getting a good running back, not Todd Gurley. Because Todd Gurley,
Todd Gurley kind of had a resurgence there, though.
A little resurgence, but...
Minus fucking up that touchdown.
Well, yeah. That is still going to be fantastic. Explain 2021 in a picture of how they didn't want to score a touchdown. That was just one of the oddest moments. Obviously, contextually, yeah, it was a smart play because they ended up losing that game. Or it would have been a smart play for them not to score.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have got the ball back.
So,
and then if we're going...
Bengals are in the middle of the list, though, with Joe Burrow.
I feel like the Bengals and Chargers, it just really it depends on those two young guys. I feel like they're literally tied. They both have decent teams. I'm not going to say great, but with the pieces, they could build and could potentially build around their star quarterbacks. Because Justin Herbert last year broke every rookie record, was phenomenal. Joe Burrow probably would have been right behind him had the injury not happened. And they went out and got some things to protect him, so we'll see what they do in the draft.
It'd be interesting to see what they do in the draft because that number 5 pick is just becoming more and more valuable, especially if Atlanta moves before the actual NFL draft. Because this episode might come out before the actual NFL draft. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because Denver can move up, New England can move up. You could see fucking the Bears could maybe try to send the moon for the number 4 pick, even though they've said Andy Dalton's their guy. Maybe a project starter like Trey Lance or Mac Jones goes there.
The 49ers just said Garoppolo's their guy and they're fielding calls on him, so...
Oh, well, you're fielding calls on everybody always. In any sport as the GM, you never, hang up the phone. Always answer it, see what they got to say.
Unless you're Mike Trout or LeBron James, who probably have no trade clauses in their contracts unless they want to be dealt.
But still, in the universe of where stupid, crazy shit happens, I still think... I would feel the call on LeBron James. Obviously, he has no trade clause.
You would feel the call for Mike Trout? Someone calls...
No, I said LeBron James. I said LeBron James. You could offer me your whole fucking franchise, and I would not trade you. You could, unless it was the Dodgers, unless it was an already playoff made franchise, and you have to start your entire system from just Mike Trout, and you have to sign free agents from there. No, but
then you guys would cut.
I would trade LeBron right now. He's 38. If we're talking future value, especially for the Lakers. I mean, I don't know. You got Anthony Davis.
I also don't think anyone's calling.
No. You'd have to do something like Kawhi, Paul George,
Zubac.
Merge the teams together and have LeBron go start his own team elsewhere. So just take all the assets. It's just pretty much a $2 billion franchise. Yeah, so Steve Ballmer were willing to trade me the Clippers.
For LeBron and Caruso.
Yep. And no, because hear me out here, because in this universe, they are leaving Los Angeles.
Oh, but
so
Alex
I get access.
Caruso's going with him. You don't think LeBron's recruiting Caruso?
I don't know if I can lose that. That's threatening to the franchise. I don't know if I can lose Alex Caruso, or can I send Kuzma instead?
Dude, I just sent him to the.
Hey, dude, LeBron put him in Space Jam 2. Okay, he's staying. Just remember that Kyle Kuzma is going to be the Sean Bradley of Space Jam 2. Fucking watch it.
There's just a lot of them that are in there. There's some female NBA players. Klay Thompson was in there. What is
pumped for the sisters from Stanford. Achusa Becky or something like that. Dude, the sisters are fucking phenomenal because they play for the Mercury now. They're really good. I actually caught one of the Vegas Aces versus the Phoenix Mercury games, and those sisters, God, they can fucking drop it. Diana Taurasi, who absolute legend. If you actually pull up Diana Taurasi's like numbers and like stats and everything, she's the LeBron of the WNBA. So, but yeah, some fantastic players in there, but still, like I said, I think Kyle Kuzma is going to be the fucking Sean Bradley of that movie. Still though, yeah, because with taking in LeBron, back to this fantasy LeBron trade here that we're talking about on a football episode, then you move the franchise out of Los Angeles, okay? And you know, fuck any players, I'll give you Andre Drummond too, all right? You can have Andre Drummond and his expiring contract. You move the franchise midseason out of Los Angeles and you move it to just wherever LeBron wants it, just not fucking LA, not San Diego, nowhere near us. Have him go to Vegas. That's fine. He can go to Vegas and start a team because the $2 billion franchise that was the Clippers and then the Los Angeles market is worth LeBron James. That is the one trade. So yes, Siglin, anybody is tradable. But I still would not do that for Mike Trout.
I wouldn't trade Mike Trout, or I don't think calls come for the other guy.
Do you think a call's ever come for Mike Trout? You think any GM just has like before they get fired?
A big enough stone.
Has anybody gotten fired for a pill addiction in the last 10 years? Because that would be the one to call, just fucking rails line. Jeff, calling about Mike Trout. Stop laughing.
Click. You still there?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. It just wouldn't work. But so, like I said, I feel like depending on whatever those teams do in the future, I believe that they're tied with their likeness to get out. And then I do believe that the Lions, the Falcons, and depending on whatever happens with the Texans situation, those are probably the three most doomed to not win a championship or even get close.
I can see that and kind of agree with it a little bit. Except for the eternal curse that's been placed on the Browns.
There is a curse, but they got the team to break it.
They do. They do have the team to break it. So just to kind of recap that, because I think we kind of covered everything, right?
Yeah.
As far as all the teams? Yeah.
We did what we wanted to do. I mean, that's what we came here to do. We just came talk about this little meme that we saw. It was like, hey, it's kind of interesting.
The bridesmaid meme.
I think we should call it the opposite of Saturn.
The opposite of Saturn list. So just to recap the opposite of Saturn list, we have the Cardinals out of Arizona, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Atlanta Falcons, Houston Texans, Minnesota Vikings, Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans, Los Angeles, formerly San Diego Superchargers, Detroit Lions, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Cleveland Browns. Also, hot take here before we go, and Siglin slaps a fly here on his lap. I think the Jaguars can win a Super Bowl, but it won't be in Jacksonville. Most likely to relocate.
Do you think after the whole stadium renovation, putting a pool in there, they're still relocating? Because Khan said that he has no plans to move, and the franchise is honestly growing a fan base down there, and it's becoming a more popular thing in the Jacksonville area. But they are also London's team because they've played the most games in the UK.
Exactly. Once again, you can say you're not doing something. You can say this all you want, but money is money. That's fantastic, but the London market is just... There's no comparison between that and even the state of Florida. Like, even if you can somehow take, like, Miami and Tampa Bay out of the equation here, and you can run the state of Florida, The only thing that keeps a team from going internationally is all of the restrictions.
I
kind of go with it.
With Trevor Lawrence, they're not moving. He's staying a Florida boy, staying in that area. They're keeping him down there.
But he went to college in South Carolina, and he's from Georgia.
He's staying in the southern coast, down in that area.
Still staying in the Yeehaw region.
Yeah, and I believe Trevor Lawrence will bring a lot of new fandom to younger kids who didn't have a guy that they liked, or they were watching Trevor Lawrence as a college quarterback and they decided to follow him along his NFL career. So we could see what happens with the Jaguars franchise, but I do believe that they will gain some financial success here.
Watch Urban Meyer shit on the world and not draft Trevor Lawrence. Justin Fields, former Ohio State kid.
I believe that he's already said that they're taking Trevor.
No, I know.
And I'm pretty sure that he tried to get Trevor Lawrence to go to the O at the time, too. So
Fun fact, a little bit of history here. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields were the number one recruit because Fields was the top scrambling quarterback and Lawrence was the top pocket passer in their respective high school classes. They were both in Georgia, separate conferences, so they never met in high school. But Fields went to Georgia originally, and then Lawrence went to Clemson. They didn't give Fields the chance to beat out... Or was it Jake Fromm or Aaron Murray? It's either Jake Fromm or Aaron Murray who was there. I think it was Jake Fromm.
I think it was Jake Fromm. I think Aaron Murray.
Yeah.
Right before. Yeah, because it was because him and Jacob Eason both transferred.
Yep. Yeah, because Jacob Eason went to Washington. Yep. So Jacob Eason left, but then Fields was there. Fromm ended up winning the starting job. And I think he started all 4 years that he was there for Georgia. So Fields ends up going to Ohio State because they started that new transfer rule to where if you played less than 4 games, and it was like your freshman year, you could still transfer and play right away. So Fields then ends up going and playing the next year for Ohio State in kind of like a situational role, and then the last 2 years he's just blown up.
Yeah, blown up.
So, I mean, still Lawrence is your number one quarterback, but I like the pro potential of Justin Fields. He's got to, iron some shit out, but still, I think he could be a good quarterback in due time.
Well, we're about to
check it out and see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up with this episode of Cig The Big. I'm Cole.
I'm Cig.
We're out.